You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm Matt Reynolds. I'm here with Nikki Sims. We're always here.
Hey, everybody. We're always here. We're here for you.
We're the
on your
consistent
phone.
ones.
We live on your phone and on the internet.
That's right. I've been struggling lately with my echoes. When I play my Spotify podcast, I start playing it on my phone, and then I say, I have to whisper it, or it'll turn on right now. I'll be like, Alexa, play Spotify. And then it immediately goes to the very first podcast episode of whatever podcast I'm listening to.
That's
like,
really
why
odd.
is it doing that?
That is not what you want. You
No.
want the most recent one that you have not listened to.
Very frustrating.
Or you actually just, these robots, man, they can't be trusted.
Yes, I'm sure I've screwed this up somehow. But welcome to the show. We talk about the value of experiencing strength and how to improve your quality of life and health and performance because of strength. And we're here to talk about that today. I'm super excited about talking about strength. We're actually going to dive into strength. So we've talked about kind of philosophically strength and how to get started. And we talked about nutrition. But I really want to spend some time in this episode talking about why strength specifically. So when we talk about, we use this tagline, experience strength. And we don't say experience fitness. We don't say experience health.
Let's say experience cardio.
Experience cardio, experience mobility. All of those things are actually good things. We would not argue against any of those things. But the question is, even from maybe a tagline or marketing standpoint, like, why do we say the term experience strength? What is it about strength? Like, why is strength the thing that we tend to grasp onto?
I think we were able to use that phrase and really hold on to it because when people are strong, their whole life changes. The way they interact with their surroundings, like as simple as getting things from the grocery store. The way they can be really productive when they train, like sometimes it takes a month to notice a difference. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. But after you know how effective your training can be, nothing else does it for you.
Yeah.
And it changes how much muscle tissue you have on your skeleton, which has really significant health benefits. It changes how useful you can be with cardio, changes your independence. It changes how the relationship is between you and your food because you see how much of a partnership they can have and how you can make changes that you want to make. So it's not just experiencing cardio, which I think when you experience cardio, you experience it in that moment.
Yep.
But with strength, you experience it in like so many different ways.
Yeah. I love that. I'd actually like to dive into some of the ones you actually mentioned. So my one of the first points I think it's important to make is that I've been a professional strength coach, I don't know, for 2+ decades at this point. And I've never met anybody who went from being weak to being strong and regretted it. Strength makes everybody better unless you're already super strong and you decide to take it into a level that is unhealthy, which some people, like, obviously, no one would argue that the guys in World's Strongest Man that are pulling F-16 airplanes are like the healthiest guys on earth.
Yeah, difficult.
But if you go from not being able to squat your own body weight or stand up out of a chair without putting your hands on your knees to being able to squat your body weight on a barbell, which is really double your body weight because you're actually squatting your body weight plus the weight on the barbell, right?
That's true.
No one would argue, I don't think anybody would argue that like that's a move in the wrong direction. That's a move in the right direction.
There's like a point when you first begin where you're like, man, I can really move things around well, and your friends really notice it. And if you're in your like 20s and 30s, they start asking you to help them move apartments and houses more.
And
that's a downside. But
right.
then when you enter your later 30s, you're just like, you can't bribe me with pizza and beer anymore.
That's right. That's right.
It's the only downside I can think of.
The best thing about owning business at this point is that when someone asks me to help them move, I go, hey, I've got a great moving company, and I'm going to go ahead and put the first $300 in towards the cost of that.
That's really nice of you.
That's what I do. Because I'm
You're
like,
going to get so many DMs asking for people to help them move now.
No. This would have to be for a friends or family that I actually know in this town. That's right. Don't blow my Instagram up. I love that you mentioned like grocery shopping, right? Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
why is it awesome to be strong for grocery shopping? Let's be honest. Because we're making one trip with the bags is what we're doing.
Absolutely. 2
Who?
trips. No thanks.
That's
I
how
want to
you know you're not
carry
strong enough.
all the La Croix, all the heavy stuff in both of my arms,
That's right.
just in one single trip. And
That's right.
That's like important. It's those little things that like you want to make things that are important to you more doable.
Yep.
And so, you know, maybe you want to eat a certain way. It's like make grocery shopping easier. Maybe you want to get access to certain things that you weren't sure if you could before. Like you make so many more things doable and accessible to you. It's really fun.
Yeah, you mentioned training as well. And when I hear the word training, I immediately go to like weightlifting training. But you have talked about already on the show that you're really into jujitsu. I've done a very small amount of that, but it's interesting when I have gone to a class with some sort of mixed martial arts and someone that's a good instructor works with me and I'm not very flexible and I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, "Oh, you're so strong."
Yeah.
If you can figure out what you're doing, like, man, you know, like you immediately have this leg up on everybody else. And I assume you've experienced the same thing at your gym that you're a female. And I would assume that virtually every female that you roll with, you're stronger than. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. There are definitely some women who just know how to leverage themselves really well. They're definitely more advanced in jujitsu than I am. So they know how to be stronger using the skill of jujitsu. But physically, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of the great equalizer, right? And it's not an excuse to have bad form or to have bad technique.
Right.
But when you have that foundation of strength, as you figure out the technique, you become like, you're tough to beat.
One thing that was really cool, when I first moved to California, I wanted to find an activity that was physical where I could meet people. And I think there are activities that as a female, you're just like, I'm not sure about, like, that might be too much for me. But I really liked jujitsu, and being strong made me feel like it was okay to roll against men, which really in most classes, there are like 1 to 3 ladies and then like 30 dudes.
Right.
So my pool of people to train with was significantly larger. And I think some women, I don't know, this might not be everybody, I think they wait for other women to go do things with them.
Sure.
But I didn't feel like I have to do that. Like I was like, I'm ready. I can at least try.
Yep.
And I don't feel like I'm just going to be completely turned into mashed potatoes. Like I feel like I can bring something that protects me and makes me feel like I can learn and not just be destroyed.
Yeah, I love that. And we talked about this a few episodes ago. The thing that I think is talked about the least that should be talked about much more often is the thing that happens to our confidence when we get strong.
Totally.
Like you had the confidence that you were capable, or at least potentially capable to do the
I
thing.
can at least try.
That's right. You're like, I've got the capability to do this because I'm strong. Like, I don't know what I'm doing yet, and I don't know the form, but like, I've got this foundation of strength so that I am confident that I'm capable to be able to move forward with this. And I think that's huge.
I think it can be really huge for people. You've been working out in the gym for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like to not feel strong enough to do something?
For sure. I mean, I got started at the end of my high school career, like really my senior year. And I was weak. I mean, I wasn't one of those guys who was in the top 20 of the school or anything like that. Like I can remember the first time I bench pressed 135 and they're like, oh man, it's the big plate, you know?
Yeah.
I think I benched 205 by the end of my high school career, which is not very strong, but it was, yeah, you know, and so,
I've seen pictures of Matt when he was in high school. He was very different looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
155 pounds and had hair. Yeah. So of course I remember what it's like. Again, I think for me, I've told this story on other podcasts I've been on and stuff. And if I tell my story, but I was the sort of the infamous, 100-pound weakling, the old cartoons from the beach, I was the guy that I was just like the nerdy kid that was, I was decently athletic and played sports, but I was just like the little scrawny guy. And I was a Baptist preacher's kid. So I was kind of nerdy and kind of sheltered. And so I think a lot of what I found in strength was the confidence to kind of come out of that shell. Obviously I don't have a shell anymore. I just shout from the rooftops no matter where I'm at. But in the same light of you talking about jujitsu, you know, I've at this point been competitive in powerlifting and strongman. I've owned a CrossFit and done CrossFit, like all that. I can go out and do conditioning workouts. I know how to push myself. While I'm certain that most people are more conditioned than I am, because I've done the hard things that you do when you get strong. I've got the mental toughness to be able to hang with people. You know, I've done
Totally.
you know, I've gone with Brett McKay and done whatever it was, an 8-mile ruck with 50 pounds on my back, having never done that before. And it was hard. I mean, it was hard.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
it was like, I've done harder than this. Harder than this is, you know, real heavy sets of squats, you know, twice a week for 10 years. So it gives you this foundation. We talk a lot. I don't want to hammer this idea of voluntary hardship, but we choose a thing that's hard. And I think you do the same thing with jujitsu. I certainly don't think that strength alone is the only thing that does that. But when we voluntarily choose a thing that's tough, it prepares us for other things that we do that's tough, whether those other things that we have to do are voluntary or not. Whether sometimes it's involuntary. Sometimes we get COVID. Sometimes it's, you know, we lose a relationship. Our boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with us, or, you know, a kid gets sick or whatever. And I don't think that strength is the be all end all to solve those things. Like, boy, you would have really handled your kid getting sick a little better if your squat was. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, anything that we can do, especially in today's day and age where most of us live, especially in the Western world, in the United States, where even our poor people are the richest 1% of the world, to be able to choose to do a thing that is hard has this refining process for most people, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, etc.
You learn that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad.
That's right. That's right. As a matter of fact,
some people will be like, that's too hard. That can't be right. That feels wrong. Like I need to do the easiest thing. Like that's not going to work. But because it's difficult doesn't mean you can't do it and you're going to be okay.
I think there's even a mind shift that occurs for a lot of people. And I think you have to be careful with this. I hesitate to talk about this on the podcast because it's not like I don't think you should be vocal about it very often, but I think it starts to change some things in your mind where you start to choose other hard things. You're going to be like, I don't have to take the elevator. I can take the stairs. Now, look, that doesn't make you a hero. That isn't anything like moral. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just you start to, you know, it's the cold shower stuff. Like, do cold showers help with anything? Probably not. But for whatever reason, I end every shower. I mean, and this time of year, it's January. It is ice cold, man. It is ice cold. And it's not, and I don't say that to be like, oh, look how voluntary hard Matt is. Like, it's not that, like, you know, it's not, but you just like, you start to choose these things. You're like, I don't know, man, I can make choices that aren't always, you know, so Epicurean. That's just like this, everything is for my own comfort and wonderful. And it's like,
it's kind of more fun to be around people like that too, who are just like, people who are just like, no, constantly don't want to, constantly can't. It's different to hang around people who are just like, okay, let's try that out.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Actually, I've talked about this before too. I've had a surprising number of surgeries in my abdominal region over the past 20 years with various, you know, whatever. I don't know. I've had hernias and appendectomies and gallbladders and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So an abdominal surgery is not a voluntary hardship, obviously. It's an involuntary hardship. And there's lots of surgeries that are much, much worse and much harder. So, but anytime I have something like that, it's also one of those things, again, that it's not like I'm shouting from the rooftop, look at me. But in my mind, it's like, I'm going to see how well I can handle this thing. This is a hard thing. How fast can I recover? How much, you know?
Ooh, you get a little competitive.
You do get competitive. I got COVID early, right? So I got COVID really early, like February 27th.
Really proud of.
I was super proud of that one. So while I don't brag about the abdominal surgery, I do brag about concrete. No, I got COVID officially diagnosed the first week of March of 2020. And, you know, I took that, even then in my brain, I was like, I'm going to beat. And remember, in March 2020, everybody was like, unknown. You might die. Like,
right.
Which, I mean, you might die today too, but we have a little better data, obviously, on the percentage chance. Back then, nobody really knew. Like, is 10% of the people, are 10% of the people going to die? Is it 1 in 10 chance? You're going to die from
scary.
This. And you just kind of tackle it with that way. So
I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you were 155 pounds and scrawny, there were probably a lot of different things you could choose to do when you went to the gym because you wanted to look different, feel different. So did you go like the bodybuilding route? Did you immediately start squatting and deadlifting? What was that like?
I think I got lucky because I was a senior in high school and lifted in high school.
Oh, cool.
That while most high school weight rooms are probably not a bastion for wonderful technique and form, they tend
Tough.
to, because barbells are relatively cheap and they last forever, they tend to be focused around barbells. So yeah, we bench pressed, we pressed, we did power cleans, we squatted. I don't think we deadlifted. I think we did power cleans and squats. But you did all those barbell lifts because that's what the football players did and the wrestlers and stuff. And I wasn't really one of those. I was a basketball player and, but I happened to do that. And I didn't know, we'll get into this a little bit. I didn't know what like linear progression was. I didn't know. I would just put a little more weight on the bar every time. Like, I don't know. I bench pressed 155 last time. Let's try 160, 165 this time.
Right.
I didn't know what I was
the
doing.
bro thing where it's like 135, 155, 185,
No,
225.
I can actually remember missing one. I do remember, and that might be true, but I do remember missing 185 bench press like 4 times,
Okay.
4 different workouts. And I don't know how long, over a period of, 2 or 3 weeks before I finally hit 185. And I remember thinking that was the first big milestone that I can remember. I remember benching 135, but I remember thinking like, it's only been a couple workouts. 185 took work and I missed it. And then when I came back and benched 185, I was like, all right, I'm pretty strong now. 185.
That's really cool.
My wife has since benched 185 for 7.5, but at the time I thought it was great. So
it is.
and it was a PR. It was a PR for me. So, okay. So one thing that we continue to use the word strength. We've talked several episodes ago about the value of experiencing strength and how to start this stuff. But I do actually want to dive a little bit into like what we actually mean when we say strength. And this is going to be a little bit different than what we talked about a few episodes ago, where we talked about strength really as an overarching philosophical theme. And what we're actually talking about how to train in the gym, because you've heard me tell this story before in lectures at seminars. Most people walk into a gym, especially this time of year, in the beginning of January and the new year. And these gyms, my gosh, some of these gyms are incredible, right? And we go to them sometimes when we travel for seminars. We go to these like massive Taj Mahal type gyms.
Yeah.
But imagine being a person that's just starting and they walk into this thing and like, how overwhelming is it to like, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands of machines.
And these machines, some of them, you have no idea what body part to put where.
No.
Oh, man.
They're amazing. And there's hundreds of cardio machines. And there are racquetball courts and basketball courts and swimming pools. And, and then there's the barbells back in the corner and the squat racks and the dumbbells and the free weights. And you're like, I don't know, those people are scary. Like, I don't. And so where to even start is such a difficult challenge for a lot of people. It's like, I don't know what to do. Right. And so coming back to what we said over the last couple episodes, the reality is starting and even doing the wrong thing is better than not starting at all.
Yeah. Do the machine that looks like, I understand where to put my body parts exactly and what to squeeze. Start with that one.
That's right.
Fine.
Now, in general, if we want to get the most bang for our buck, we're going to try to do the things that are going to give us the greatest return on investment for our body as a whole, right? So we're going to try to pick exercises that work the majority of our body or the most muscle possible. It's going to, we're going to move the most joints are going to bend, right? We're going to do stuff that we can incrementally load, right? Which means that things like barbells often are better than something like a machine that only has 20-pound plates on it, or dumbbells that often jump a lot. It's hard to go from a 25-pound.
You don't have much runway.
Not much runway, right? We're going to do it for nice big ranges of motion, right? We're going to, so we can start to look at those things and say like, okay, what are the lifts that are going to get us the best bang for our buck? Because I could go in and do the machines, but most of those machines are set up to work like one muscle group. And there are so many muscle groups on a body.
The difference, I think, with when you really kind of switch over into feeling strong, you understand how to contract so much musculature in your body at the same time. And a lot of those machines don't really let you do that. Like you're not having to work for your own balance. You're not able to contract machines just because of the position that they place you in. And like you said, you can't really even get access to enough weight or range of motion to tap into all that musculature.
Yeah, and just work the bicep. And sometimes it's just work the bicep at the elbow.
Yeah, that's
right.
True.
It's like a single joint moves, right? So if you sit on a machine or get on a machine and only one joint moves, right? So just your elbow moves, then you don't have to know much about physiology and anatomy, but you're like, well, only one thing's moving, that it's not working very much. It's just working that one thing.
And that's, if we want to nerd out just for a second, like what we're really trying to do is make our muscles shorten under tension. And a lot of times we let them try to shorten under tension, but they actually end up lengthening under force because the muscles are getting longer and you're resisting it.
Yep.
And like you were saying, we're trying to use as many joints as possible. And that contractile force, the muscle shortening, that occurs when we close joints or open them. So like in the squat and the deadlift, how many joints are we working?
Well, the knees bend for sure for both. The hips bend for sure for both, right? The ankles have some movement for sure for both. And because the prime muscles that are moving the bar are below the waist, but the bar is connected to the body above the waist or up by the shoulders, then really everything between the shoulders and, the hips and the butt and the hamstrings, that's all getting worked too. So things like your back is getting worked, your core, your abdominals, like all those things get worked, even though they're not actually moving or wiggling or expanding or contracting. They're not doing those sort of things.
They're trying to not do that.
That's right. They're actually trying to hold rigid, which is really, really hard. So that's a great point.
You get so much work done with that contractile force, which is really what strength is. You measure your strength by how much you can move something or not let yourself move.
That's
and
right.
with the barbell, you can start at what barbells are some like 22 pounds or
sure
15 pounds.
I mean, there's aluminum barbells for beginners, for kids, for whatever, right? There's really light stuff.
And then you can take your way up to 800, 900 pounds.
Or even more, right? We've seen people like it's crazy. So first is the movement. So you go, okay, like what if we start to look at like, okay, if there are literally an infinite number of movements you could do in these gyms, and there are movements, machines, whatever. And we were going to say like, well, I wonder what are the least number of movements I could do for the most bang for my buck?
Dude, yeah.
That's what I want, because I don't want to do 25 movements per workout. I want to do 2 or 3 or 4, And so we can look at it and say, well, regardless of whether you're using a barbell or dumbbells, whatever, you can just start with the movements and say something like a squat, which most people know what that is. And it's literally just, doesn't mean you have to know how to do it right yet. We'll get there, right? But literally it's just standing up, squatting down until your hips are below your knees and standing back up.
Not falling over.
Right. It's not falling over.
That's an important part.
That's a squat, right? Everybody knows, right? So it's babies do this, or, catchers in baseball do like squat and stand back up. So that's a squat. And that's going to work a tremendous amount of muscle, right? And we can talk about how to do it right and barbells. I do want to talk about some of those things, but squats are a big bang for your buck exercise. And that includes if you're somebody that's never lifted before, doesn't have a barbell, and you're learning how to stand up out of your chair, that's a squat. That is a squat for sure. You. That's okay. A deadlift, you'll hear us talk about deadlifts a lot, and that's literally just picking weight up off the floor. Obviously, properly in a way that's going to strengthen your back, not hurt your back. There's all those things that we'll walk you through here on the podcast. But a deadlift is something that, again, the term functional strength is a popular term, has been a popular term for 10 or 15 years now in the fitness world. And because it's so popular, so trite, and I don't love it. I don't love that term. But is there anything more functional, lifelike, normal than just picking something heavy up off the floor? Whether that's your toddler,
groceries,
a gas can, groceries, like whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So learning how to do that properly is great. And doing it with a barbell is awesome. But learning how to do it with a milk jug or a kettlebell or a 50-pound bag of dog food. You talk about, you go to Sam's or Costco and you buy the bag of food for your pet. Like for a lot of people, that 50-pound bag, they have
to get help.
It's a big dead weight, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to pick up. And so that's another one that gives us a big bang for our buck. And then the big pressing movements that for barbells, we use the overhead press. What a lot of people think of as a military press. It's just literally pressing a barbell over your head. You could do the same thing with dumbbells. You could do the same thing with milk jugs, right? Or a bench press a bench press where everybody knows what a bench press is, where you lay down on the bench and you press the bar so you're laying horizontally. But that could also be like a push-up. Push-up's the same movement. It could also be a push-up against a wall if you're not ready to do push-ups on the floor. Those are all the same movements, right?
They're very scalable.
That's right. Those movements are going to get us the best bang for our buck. We often will throw in maybe one other one, something like a chin-up or a pull-up, or again, that could also be, a row or what we call an inverted row, where you actually are it's like a chin-up, but you're hanging horizontally, often holding onto a barbell or the edge of a table or whatever. So we can effectively go into a gym or even not go into a gym and do it from home and just focus on these main movements of something like a squat, where we squat down, stand back up, a deadlift, we pick up a weight off the floor, presses, whether that's a bench press or an overhead press or a push-up or whatever, and some form of upper back work, like a row. You can row, again, a milk jug, a kettlebell, a dumbbell, a barbell, chin-ups, pull-ups, lots of variations there. Any of those variations. And with those really kind of 4 to 5 movements, you actually train every single muscle in the body, which is pretty incredible because now I don't have to go in and do 25 different machines. And so to me, the best way to start strength is to actually try to do the movements that are going to give us the best return on investment for the least number of movements. Like, holy cow, we can do this for only 4 movements. Like, this is incredible. And that's how we start to get strong. Yeah.
I was at the gym last night and I go and I do a bunch of accessories one day at 24 Hour Fitness because I don't have dumbbells or all those machines that we've been talking about. Right. And there was this group of girls next to me and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a glute squad, because they all had like the sports bras and like the up the butt pants, and they were doing
the ruched
they must
bottoms.
have done like 25 different exercises
all for
glutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, you ladies, I didn't talk to them. This is what I was thinking in my head. It's like, you have great butts, but you could do 5x5 squats and it would be the same.
Actually, my argument is it would be better. You could do 5x5 squats and probably get 3x the benefit.
Yeah. It's such a significant difference in how you can spend your time in the gym.
That's exactly
and learn so much about body awareness too.
Yep.
I was told, I had this group of clients who I coached in Atlanta when I lived there, and it was mostly a female barbell club class. And I was like, it would be great if you could deadlift the weight of your partner, your husband, your spouse, or more, so that if anything ever happened to them, you could drag them, or if you needed to get rid of them, you could drag them.
To save their life or to bury them.
Yes.
Either one. That's a great, that's how you know that's a good strength standard.
But there's no machine for that.
No machine. You can't, no machine to get your husband either out of the burning house or buried in the backyard. They're both the same. Okay, so I want to get a little sciencey, but I don't want to lose people. So stay with me. I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can. So if we focus on the big movements that give us the best return on investment, we're going to talk next week on how to do that at the gym versus how to do it at home. We're going to talk about like what equipment you actually need. So we'll get into specifics on equipment. But right now, if we're just like, hey, we're going to do squats, we're going to do deadlifts, we're going to do presses, and we're going to do some sort of pull for our upper back, right? How do I structure that to continue to make progress, or so I know I'm making progress? And there's a term we use in the strength world that we call linear progression. Don't let that throw you off. Don't turn off your phone. So linear progression literally just means you're doing a little more work than you did last time. And what it specifically means is you're adding a little bit of the same thing that you added last time, which means
that's important.
If you do barbell work, you decide that you're going to add a little bit of weight each time. And for as long as you can, you're actually going to add the same amount of weight each time. So you're going to add 5 pounds to squats every single time you squat. We'll talk about how often you'll squat here in a second. Or maybe you only add 2.5 pounds, or maybe only 1 pound. But it's the same incremental increase every time. If it's the same incremental increase, that's linear. If you put it on a graph, it would be a line. It would have a slope to it, and you go, okay, so now that's a linear progression. If you're at home and you're doing this body weight style, so that you don't have weights, you can still do linear progression. You just do 1 or 2 more reps every single session. So if you're like, okay, I got down on the floor on my knees and I did 4 push-ups. Well, the next time you do push-ups, you do 5 push-ups.
Right.
And then you do 6.
A little more of the same that is measurable.
That's right. Not how hard did it feel, or it's just literally, it's almost always adding reps or adding weight, but you choose which one you're going to do. Right now, we are going to tend to, in a gym or with barbells, we're going to tend to start by adding a little weight every single time. Right. So for most of us, what we're going to do is we're going to have most people work out, train 3 times a week, somewhere in that ballpark. 4 is okay. 2 is okay. Something around 3. And you're going to train the whole body. So you're going to do a squat with whatever weight you can do, not with good form. You're going to start conservative. It doesn't have to be super hard. And you're going to do something like 3 sets of 5. Doesn't have to be 3 sets of 5. It'd be 2 sets of 5, 3 sets of 6. 3 sets of 5 is a good place to start to kind of just say, that works pretty well for almost everybody. And so 3 sets of 5 means that you're going to take the barbell and you're going to do 5 reps and you're going to go, how hard was that? Yeah, it wasn't that hard. And so you're going to put a little weight on. So if you use our standard barbell, it's 45 pounds. You put 5 pounds on, you're 55 pounds. Do it for 5 more reps. That's a little harder, but I think I can do a little bit more. All right, put a couple more 5s on, right? We go up to 65 pounds. You do it for 5 reps. You're like, all right, that was decently hard. Not super hard. I did it for 5, probably could have done it for 8 or 9 or 10.
Right.
Perfect.
This shouldn't be go in and get smashed. Because remember, you're going to come back in a couple days.
That's right. And you're going to wait a few minutes and you're going to repeat that again. That's 65 pounds. You're going to do it for another set of 5. And you're going to wait a few minutes. How long? 2, 3, 4 minutes. Fine. Do another set of 5, right? A set is a round and the reps are how many times you do the squat up and down in a single round. Is that fair? That makes sense?
Yeah. Different. Nice stepping out of the bounds of our jargon there.
That's right. So you end the workout, the squat portion, doing 3 sets of 5 at 65 pounds or whatever is kind of just moderately hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move on to one of the pressing movements and you bench press or press and you do the same thing. You decide you probably won't do both. So maybe you do an overhead press and you do the empty barbell. And this time the empty barbell is kind of heavy. You're like, ooh, I think I'm just going to stay with the empty barbell today.
Yeah. Just so you know, the press is the ego crusher, but it's good for you. Keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes 45 pounds is hard to do. And let's say you do 45 pounds for 3 sets of 5.
It's good.
And then you could do the same thing for deadlift, right? So you put the weight on the bar. And the thing on the deadlift that's a little bit more tricky is we want to tend to make sure that we get a weight that is the right diameter size. So a lot of people that don't know, they'll put the 2.5s on or the 5s on or the 10s on. And as you might imagine, those weights are much smaller in diameter than a 45-pound plate.
So the bar is like really close to the floor.
So the bar is like right on your shoelaces. It's very hard to get in the correct position for that. When you use a 45-pound plate, the bar is essentially 9 inches off the ground. So you want to try to get the bar about 9 inches off the ground. Now, a lot of gyms these days have bumper plates or rubber plates. They have 10-pound plates that are the same size and diameter as 45s. 25s, the same sort of thing. But if your gym doesn't, and it has iron plates, you could take and put 10s on the bar and put that on an aerobic step on the right and left side or something and get it to about 9 inches and do the best you can to set up your deadlift. You can pull the deadlift for sets of 5 and do the same thing, right? And sometimes 1 set of 5 is enough. If you want to do 2 sets or 3 sets, there's nothing, let's not make it complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And you can leave the gym. And then you write it down in your logbook so you know exactly what you did, or put it in your phone so you know exactly what you did. And you come back 2 days later, 48 hours later, and you do the exact same thing that you did 2 days ago, but you just go up and weight a little bit. That's it.
That's it. And even though if it seems like a little bit, like if you hear a little bit and that seems like that's not enough, like think of how much weight you add in a month. If you were squatting 3 times a week and you're adding 5 pounds each time, 60 pounds added to your squat.
You'll be squatting
I sound like
60 pounds more in February than you were in January.
It's pretty rad.
That's a lot of weight, right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I would argue that you probably can't do that on press. Some people can.
True.
But you often have to make smaller jumps on something like a press, right? So you don't have to get it exactly right. You don't have to do exactly the right sets and reps. You don't have to do exactly. The key is to get in and get the greatest return on your investment. So it's a focus on the lifts that give us the best bang for our buck. It's doing the sets and reps and weight that give us the best bang for our buck, which for us is usually like 3 sets of 5 with the weight that we start at is kind of conservatively, moderately heavy, right?
Yeah. And that's enough to make your body want to change to get stronger. It's enough of a stimulus for your body to react to it. Even though you're not breaking a sweat, you may not get that sore, like you're challenging your muscles enough to produce some sort of reaction in a positive way.
Now, what if you don't have a membership to a gym, or you're still like nervous to go to a gym, or I'm like, I've never been like, I really want to start this, but like, I do not know that I'm going to go to a gym tomorrow. Okay. You can do the same thing from home. This is why there isn't an excuse to not start. Like you could literally do it while you're listening to this podcast. You could certainly do it immediately after the podcast. You walk into your dining room and you pull out your kitchen chair and you put your hands out in front of you and you squat down to the chair, right? You could even look up how to do a chair squat on Barbell Logic's YouTube channel, because we've got those, right? How to do
like a sit to stand.
Yeah, we have a video called Find Your Squat, which is like how to find the easiest way for you to squat, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's on a chair, or like even without a chair, so an air squat or body weight squat. And you just do, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 8 reps until you're like, okay, it's getting kind of hard, and stop. And wait a minute or two and do another set. Let's say you did 6, do another 6. And then wait a few more minutes and do another 6. And then you could do this instead of bench pressing or overhead pressing with a barbell. You could do your version of Find Your Push-Up, which I think is also a video we have on YouTube, right? Which is like, I can do them on my toes, but I can also do them on my knees. I could also do them elevated. I could also do them on the wall. I think you demonstrate those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you do the best you can, and you write it down in your phone or in your logbook. And then you do the same thing with the deadlift. You like, I don't know, find something heavy. Pick up a dog food bag. Pick up a couple milk jugs. Maybe you've got an old set of dumbbells in the garage that haven't been touched in 20 years. Doesn't matter.
Those containers of water bottles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those Culligan water bottles are awesome. So, and you write it down, and a couple days later, you do the exact same thing you did. Only now you probably can't add weight to the bar because you're not using a barbell. So you just do another rep or two. So if you did 3 sets of 6 on the squats, the next time you do it at home, you do 3 sets of 7, or maybe 3 sets of 8. And then you come back in a couple days later and do 3 sets of 10, right? And then maybe you start to hold on to some weight, and you say like, okay, now I'm going to hold the milk jug in my hands while I squat. And we're just doing a little more each time. So for those of you who are like, man, I want to do it, but I'm not ready to go to the gym yet. That's okay. One, we got videos for that on YouTube, and we also have service for that. We can help you before barbell. So you can go to Barbell Logic, you can look at online coaching, and this is not to be a sales pitch. If you want somebody to help walk you through that, a professional coach to tell you exactly how many reps to do on the chair, exactly how to do your push-ups.
If there's anything that you need to fix in your form.
That's exactly right. They'll clean up the technique.
We're really good at that. Yeah.
And that's how you start. It's literally that simple to start experiencing strength, whether that's in the gym or at home. You just do those 3-4 movements that are the biggest bang for your buck, and do a little bit more every single time until you can't. And at some point you won't be able to do more, but we'll get to the next couple podcasts before we get to that spot, right? So you'll be like, I don't know. You'll be okay, because we'll take you to the next step before we get there.
There's always a path.
There's always a path. And that's how we experience strength. And when we do that, we actually get stronger. Not stronger in the ethereal philosophical sense. Yes, that too. But in the actual physical sense, we actually learn how to produce more force. Our muscles are able to contract harder, to contract with more force. Like those things happen.
Yes.
And what I love about that is in a short period of time, in 2 weeks, often even less, you will start to feel better. You're not going to be tremendously stronger, but you are going to be stronger than you were. But after you get 5-6 workouts done, you're going to be stronger than you were 5 or 6 workouts ago. But you'll be surprised at how much better you'll feel. You're not going to look tremendously different. You probably won't have lost 10 pounds or 2.5 inches off your waist in your first 6 workouts, but you will feel a lot better.
Yeah, I don't think we touched on this earlier, but your body awareness changes so significantly that you start moving yourself and other objects around really different.
That's right.
It's easier.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. People that are trained have this incredible body awareness. The only other type of person that I've really seen consistently like this, I used to be a high school strength coach. And if I had high school kids or even like early high school, even coming out of 8th grade, freshman year, and they had been in gymnastics as kids.
Oh, yeah.
Their body awareness is amazing. It's very easy to coach somebody who's been in gymnastics. Now, me, most of our listeners, probably you, right? We're awkward. We're not like that. So you're going to start not have body awareness. You're going to squat and you're going to be like, man, balancing on staying balanced on my foot is hard. Yep, me too. And I've been doing it for 30 years. And you too, right? So it's supposed to be hard. You're going to do it. You'll be like, I don't know if this is right. I'm doing that. That's okay. That's okay, right? That's what it's about starting. You will get better. Remember when you were a kid and you ever start doing like I don't know, you learned how to roller skate or rollerblade or skateboard and it's so hard. It's so, right. Jump rope. So it's so hard in the beginning because you don't have the motor pattern isn't there. You're wobbly, you're like a little, a fawn horse. Yeah. Or whatever. Exactly. You're just like all over the place. And inevitably you get way better at it pretty quick. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is like not that hard to roller skate now or to skateboard or whatever. Lifting or getting strong is the same thing. You're going to start, it's going to feel awkward. You're going to be like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if people are laughing at me. They're not, by the way. Most people, even people that go to the gym, even in bro gyms, tend to be, pretty encouraging with stuff like this. We want to see people get better. Or at your home and you're like, I don't know if this is right. Just stay at it. Just keep doing it. Just be consistent. You'll be amazed at how much your life will change in a short period of time. And then you've started the process to experience strength. You're not there yet. You haven't arrived. By the way, strength is not the be all end all. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to get you out of debt. It's not going to fix your marriage. It's not going to even fix all your physical problems. It doesn't cure cancer, right? But it does tend to make everybody better. It tends to make everybody, it certainly improves their physical ability, but we've also found it tends to improve their mental, emotional, social ability as well, confidence.
Yeah.
And that's not a guarantee either, but it's almost always a step in the right direction.
Yeah. As you continue to age, it's just worth having more muscle on your frame. Like you want to be able to do more. You want to have more reserves literally on your body for when your health gets challenged, which we know it's going to.
Yep. Like
certain diseases will manifest themselves as we get older. The more muscle you have on your frame, the better equipped you are to actually fight things. And there's actually a study now out that reinforces the more muscular tissue you have on your body. I don't want to say it's easier, but it's less difficult to lose fat.
Yes.
Muscle is such a calorically expensive tissue that if you spend a lot of time building it and going through life, building it and maintaining it, building it, maintaining it, you just get to feed your muscles.
Yep.
And they fuel you in a really useful way.
Yeah. So to reiterate that, as you get older, the vast majority of people lose muscle. It's called sarcopenia. It's like they literally lose muscle. You know this because you can look at somebody in their 70s or 80s or 90s and they get small and frail. Yeah. And they gain fat. And it's not usually because their thyroid is not working or some hormonal, it's just, right. It's because they've continued to eat and not be active. Muscle uses a lot of calories. And as they lose muscle, then their body burns less calories. That's a big piece of it, right? Yeah. You talked earlier at the beginning of the show about as you experience strength, it changes the way you interact with food. Like we can go eat a 12-ounce steak and baked potato and things like that because it's going to feed our muscles because we have muscles to feed. And so as you get strong, or if you pursue strength, what you'll find is obviously it will dramatically change the amount of muscle loss that you'll see as you get older, right?
Yeah.
If you've put a lot of muscle on your body, even in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, while you'll lose a little muscle, you'll lose it so much slower with strength than you would if you didn't train. And likewise, you'll gain much less fat. And so you end up being, and again, which is great for aesthetics, but what it really is it's for long-term health and longevity, right? Yeah. It's the thing that people will tend to, when they get older, they not to make this all about mortality, but like as you start to struggle with these diseases, a lot of times people will actually kind of waste away. You watch people get cancer or something, and it's because it's not often the cancer that gets them, it's that actual wasting part. And we can do things to prepare ourselves now so that we can better fight those things if we have to, right? God forbid. But some of us will have to. And for those of us that are prepared, we're going to be better prepared for that, a better chance of survival rate for sure, with a higher amount of muscle on our body. And so there's lots of things we can do. Awesome. So that's how you get started. That should help with the episode we did 2 weeks ago on just kind of the ethereal how to get started. And so you've got some practical takeaways for how to get started today. You don't need to know everything there is to know. Again, a great place to go is just go to our YouTube channel. If you want to learn how to do those barbell movements and you're like, I'm not sure how to do them, that's a great place to start. If you're just starting at home, we also have all those videos for you as well in the Before Barbell series. From home, you can learn how to do all this stuff from home, even if you don't have equipment. And next week, I think it's important that we'll talk about home versus the gym. What are the advantages and disadvantages for both? If I'm going to one versus the other, what equipment will I need?
Yeah.
One thing I like about this is that it's not like golf. Golf is an expensive sport where you have to keep buying equipment.
Yes.
There's not a lot of equipment to buy for strength training. And if you buy good equipment, it lasts forever.
Yeah. There's a lot you can buy.
Yes.
If you're
you can always
a gearhead, like I know some of you are.
That's right.
There's tons of things that you can spend your money on, but you don't have to.
Right. You could buy a belt or shoes, and that could literally last you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, and it's also not like is no such thing as, well, I say that, I'm sure I was going to say, there's no such thing like $1,000 belt like there is for a Big Bertha driver or something for golf. But Niki has probably found the $1,000 belt, snakeskin belt that, dinosaur skin. Niki has a Brontosaurus belt. It's 50 million years old.
I think that new dinosaur they just discovered, I've got dibs on parts of it.
So sure, there's always stuff. But yeah, it's great. So we'll talk about, because I think a lot of people come in and they go like, what do I need? And it's not that complicated. It's also not that complicated. It's also so not complicated that what you need might literally be your dining room chair and a dog food bag. It could literally be that simple. Or you could be like, okay, what do I need if it's barbells? What do I need what if I want to do barbells at home? What if I'm going to the gym? Like, do I need shoes? So we'll talk about some of that stuff next week as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
That's how we experience strength. Big return on investment, movements, little more each time. That's all you got to do. This has been another episode of the Barbell Logic Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If this brings you value, it really, really does help to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. It drives us up in the rankings and lets other people hear us. And so if you haven't taken the time to give us a review, we would be so honored that you do that, because we want to change the lives of all sorts of people, not just the ones we know and love, but also we'd like to bring some new people into the fold. So awesome. Come on in. The water's nice and warm. We will catch you next week.